Welcome to the Creator's Crypt. My name is Russ Adams. I was a special effects artist for over 25 years. I created creatures and props for films, television, and even commercials. I wrote 6 how-to books on special effects projects, and I starred on a reality show where we had to build creature suits and animatronic puppets in 2 to 3 days. So artistically speaking, I feel like I have a lot of experience to share. But enough of that. Let's get into this art stuff. Welcome to the Creator's Crypt. Again, my name is Russ Adams, and today I'd like to talk about the celebrity misconception. As an artist, you're approached at, we'll just say a Comic-Con or a trade show. You're approached by a celebrity who walks up and just can't stop talking about how much they love your work. They chat you up a bit, talk about how much they would really like to have one of your pieces, but you're getting the sense that they're just asking for it, that they don't intend to pay for it. So what do you really get out of giving your work to a celebrity? Not much. Now, apparently, as a public figure in any way, you can't really discuss a conversation you had with somebody else that might put them in a bad light. So because of this, I have to change the names, which is completely ridiculous. But for the sake of lawsuits, I'm just going to go ahead and, change the name. So years back, I was a celebrity guest at Wizard World Vegas. I was right next to a former Marvel character. Now, we didn't talk much, even though we were right next to each other, and I spent more time talking to who I believe might have been his daughter than I did him. I told her about how he was instrumental in me becoming a special effects artist, and how amazing it was for me to go from a child who was inspired by him to a grown adult now signing autographs right next to him. This was an amazing thing for me. So after talking with him for a while, I decided, hey, you know what? Maybe it would be cool to get a photo with this guy. So we chatted about it a minute, and I went around the table and I waited for the line to thin out a little bit. And so the next thing you know, this woman's asking me for my credit card. And I'm a little taken aback, because on Celebrity Row, it's just one of those things where we take photos with each other. Nobody charges. So this was I was kind of stunned. But rather than deal with the embarrassment of backing out of the line and going back to my seat and signing autographs, I stuck it out. I paid the $100, which is ghastly. I walked up, I turned around, shook his hand, the photo was clicked, and I was sent on my way. It was very lackluster. It was very disappointing. And I kind of kept to myself after that because this just wasn't the norm. So the next day, Mr. Marvel comes up to my table and he starts chatting me up. Hi, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And at first I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, he's just going to, apologize and correct the situation. But that's not what happened. He starts admiring some of my work. And he's talking about how this one piece that he really likes would look really good in his house, or his home, as he put it. And I thought to myself, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, you just charged me $100 for a photo. There's no way I'm giving this to you. So I told him, I was like, for $500, you could put it in your home. And I smiled. He him-hawed around about it, walks off to his table, and that was it. That was basically the last interaction I had with him at that convention. I would also like to mention that I have sat next to this gentleman many times before as a celebrity guest. I understand that he probably doesn't watch reality television, and he certainly probably wasn't going to recognize me. But the fact that I have been a fixture for the last 6 months next to him, you would think that that would be the case, and it just wasn't. So that was our last interaction. Had I not been charged for the photo, I might have just given it to him. I would likely have just given it to him. But what does that get me? I mean, the photo doesn't cost him anything but a few seconds, really. It took literally seconds to take the photo. Whereas I put hours upon hours into that creature. But if you're an artist at a convention or a Comic-Con, what have you, that's kind of the way it goes. Celebrities want that one-sided transaction. They give nothing, you give everything. So years ago, before I was on a reality show, I made these masks that I referred to as Werewolf 1.0, and they were pretty detailed. They were very involved and very large. And I sent one to a producer friend of mine because we had worked together before and we were close, and I thought it was, it was a cool thing to do. And he says, you know what you ought to do? You ought to send one of these to this particular late night host. And I thought, oh, okay. I guess what could it hurt? It took me a couple of weeks, but I finished the mask, and then I called this individual's representation to find out where I should send this. They gave me the address, and great, golden, I'm on my way. I mentioned that this thing was large, so I don't even want to say how much I paid for shipping, but it was substantial, and shipped it off. Well, because I sent it certified, I did get a message later that it had been received. I can't remember at this point who signed for it, but it was a legitimate signature. It clearly arrived where it needed to be, and that was the last I ever heard about the mask. I don't even know what I expected. I feel like on the ultimately positive side that this individual would mention it on his Halloween episode that he had done, at that time. I feel like on a lesser note, an email or a letter, it might have been, even if it was a form letter, it was something, but that never came either. And now years later, after my experiences on the Comic-Con tour, I have a feeling that mask that I worked so hard on just went into a landfill. And I say that because I have seen that happen at the conventions. Celebrities get gifts from fans all the time. Are they expected to keep every one? Is it even possible? Probably not. But the person giving it to them doesn't really expect them to throw it away right then and there. I've seen fans walk up to these tables with handcrafted gifts, Now, it could be someone who played Daredevil, that they've made the Daredevil helmet and now they're giving it to them. Or, some little quilted thing that has something about their show on it or something, or a drawing or something to that effect. You all know what I'm talking about. And the celebrity will wait until the individual goes away. He might even wait one or two, autographs before he reaches under the table where he has stashed the gift and chuck it. I mean, I've seen them chuck it into the waste can. I've seen them hand it at the end of the day, hand it off to a handler who is basically just a volunteer of the convention and just give it to them. They have no appreciation for what you've done. The Werewolf 1.0 mask was my fault. I should have known better. And I never made that mistake again. And I certainly won't make that mistake in the future. The ones that really piss me off are the celebrities that walk up to an artist who's trying to sell their wares and ask for their work and give nothing in return. That is just really messed up. So again, I need to emphasize, what do you think that you as the artist are going to get out of giving your work away to a celebrity? They aren't likely to promote your work even if you do give it to them for free. The transaction just doesn't make any sense to them. You might get a photo with them holding your artwork, but let's talk about what a photo means nowadays. You can say that you gave this thing to this particular celebrity, but the photo doesn't really suggest that. It's just a celebrity holding a piece of your artwork. And it looks like they were reluctant to take the picture. They could have just been walking by the table and you handed it to them and said, hey, I just want to get a picture of you with this and blah. It could be that you photoshopped that picture and your artwork was never in the celebrity's hands at all. And you also have to remember that we live in the world of AI-generated images and deep fakes. If done well, no one would really be able to tell whether it was a fake or a real photo. So, what's that photo really worth? It's not worth much. Let me give you a little bit of an anecdote. something that happened to me. Okay. I'm sitting at my table and Mr. Teen Heartthrob from the 90s comes up. And he's just had a reemergence of popularity because of a certain odd, dystopian film that he made. So he comes up to me and he's eyeballing what is now Werewolf 2.0. And he's talking about how much he loves this thing and how he would like to borrow it. And I'm like, borrow it? I'm like, what, just for today? And he's like, no, I'll take it with me and I'll mail it back to you. Well, that there's a snowball's chance in that happening as well. So I started to think about it. I'm like, this thing is about $3,000 at this point because I have really upped my game from Werewolf 1.0 to Werewolf, 2.0. And he's asking me for it. Mr. 90s Teen Heartthrob is asking me for it. So I start to think about it. Maybe it would be worth it for me to just give this to him if, the situation was right. Even if he doesn't ship it back to me, which I'm pretty certain that he won't. But what if I got him to do a really quick, video of him taking the mask and, blah, blah, blah. Videos at that time weren't all that easy to fake. This was, I could use this. I could stretch this out if he just gave me this little testimonial and stuff. Take 1-2 minutes of his time. 1 to 2 minutes of his time was worth more to him than the $3,000 piece of artwork that took me 60 hours worth of work to create. So he was unwilling to do the video in exchange for a $3,000 piece of work that he admired, that he wanted. Now, I think his intention was to scare his brother or something like that. Doesn't even matter to me. I was willing to part with something that I had poured a lot of energy into, a lot of, time, a lot of materials, and it looked really good. And now it's going to be missing from my table as, a draw of attention if I give it to this guy. So the least he could do was a 1-2 minute video talking about, the werewolf and how excited he was to get it. I thought that could go a long way for me, but it wasn't in the cards. And that's what I'm talking about. This is always going to be a one-sided transaction with a celebrity. Let's talk about Miss Alien. Okay. Now I've known Miss Alien for a number of years, and because of the fact that we knew her and that she knew that we were, basically excited to have known her and worked with her, she would play on that all the time. She would basically use that to her advantage. So she approaches me the umpteenth time. This time she needs an Android head for this music video for her band. And so I start working on it because, hey, it's Miss Alien, I know I've done a lot of freebies for her, but at this point, what's just one more thing? Well, as I'm working on this, I'm also working on 2 films and a regional commercial. So I was busy and I knew that there was no timetable associated with what she needed. So I was taking my time. Plus, I'm not only doing this for free, I'm paying for it because I'm paying for the materials to make this happen. So I start working on it again, and a mutual friend of mine contacts me, and we're just chatting. And in the process, they ask me, what are you working on? And I tell them. And they're like, wait, so-and-so just finished that for her. And I'm like, wait, the Android head? And he's like, yeah, the Android head. She just finished it for Miss Alien. And I'm like, Are you kidding me? It turns out I wasn't working fast enough for this freebie. And so without telling me that she brought in another artist, another mutual friend to build it for her, I was left holding the bag for this robotic thing that it was in pieces all over the place, and no compensation, not even a credit, not even a thank you, because That's the way these people work. Now, needless to say, that was the last freebie she ever got from me, because when she would call me in the future, I think there were 2 additional times that she had contacted me to ask for this free work. And I started tacking a price tag to it. Okay, yeah, that'll probably run you about this. The next time, okay, yeah, that'll probably run you about that. And she's like, okay. And the phone call stopped. The texts stopped. The messages stopped. Basically, contact with this person stopped because I was no longer a pipeline for her freebies. She was benefiting from the work that she was getting from me, and I was getting nothing in return. You're starting to see a pattern, right? I mean, you're probably thinking, well, Russ, this just happens to you. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does happen to me, but it happens to a lot of artists I know and that I've known for decades. And some of them really, really well-known artists. So it isn't just me. It's basically all of us. I've had other friends, that I thought were friends that would come to me and ask me to do puppet work. Again, it's one-sided. Again, I'm going to be paying for it. Again, I'm not getting anything in return. A bunch of promises or whatnot, but never come to fruition. And again, because it's a freebie, I'm trying to do it in conjunction with the other work that I'm doing, and I wasn't moving fast enough, and they pulled the plug and went animation instead of puppet. It is what it is. Now, I've already told you that celebrity guests have people that will come up to them and give them gifts that they absolutely don't appreciate. I mean, they pretend to appreciate. They're actors for the most part, so they can pull that off pretty well. And then they'll put it under the table as if they're tucking it away for safekeeping. And at the end of the day, they're either throwing it in the garbage can or handing it off to some random, volunteer or their agent, whatever. That aside, there are other things that they do that completely boggle my mind. They'll go up to these artists, comic book artists or authors, people who create prints, things like that. And they will literally talk these people out of their product because they know that artist is starstruck, that they can't believe that this celebrity stopped at their table, and oh my God, what an honor. And so, yes, they take one of their comic books and they give it away, or they take one of their prints and give it away. And the celebrity doesn't seem to appreciate the fact that they're trying to earn a living. Your appreciation doesn't pay their bills. It doesn't pay for that table that they have at the convention. And what's worse is they get some kind of kick out of this where they'll take the piece that's given to them and they'll turn around and they'll hand it to their handler without a second thought, and they will forget about it the rest of the damn day. I mean, I've heard the conversations. I've heard the conversations. Haha, I told you I could get that for you, blah, 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 because it's their handler, and the handler is out there doing all kinds of stuff for them. And this is just a little thing that they can do that costs them nothing but a few minutes, and they give it to them and boom, they wouldn't do that for the artist, but, for their agent or whoever books them or whoever is their security or, they would do that, just, it's an awful situation for an artist to be in that position. It's an awful situation for a celebrity to put an artist in that situation. It's really messed up that you'd be willing to take money from that struggling artist to satisfy some greedy little, pathetic, narcissistic need for you to be able to manipulate something from someone and then just throw it away or give it away, because it does mean absolutely nothing to you. This is why I'm trying to tell you that it is a misconception that if you give your art to a celebrity that you will benefit from it, because there's a snowball's chance in hell that you will. And while I understand that fame and fortune are not the same thing, but I am willing to bet that Mr. 90s Heartthrob, Mr. used to be a Marvel guy, and Miss Alien, who I do know personally, all make more money than those artists. And so they can afford to pay those artists. And when the artist offers to give it to them, what they really should be saying is, you know what, let me pay for it. Because it may be $20. It may be $50. It could be $500. If I really want it, I'll pay for it. That's how you support the artist. And artists, please stop doing this. It's not appreciated. I'm willing to go on a limb and tell you that 75% of the time, it is completely unappreciated. And for those of you giving gifts, it's more like 90% unappreciated. Just stop wasting your time. Show your admiration for these people by going up and buying an autograph or buying a photo or, what have you. Stop giving them your hard work, your creativity. Stop. Thank you for listening or watching today. I would like to thank my friends over at the Collector's Maze Network for all their support. If you guys are looking for a set of podcasts that are all things geek, you guys need to check out the Collector's Maze Network. They've got upwards of 19, 20 podcasts that they've put together in the last year alone, and everything from Scooby-Doo podcasts and, fan-based podcasts to Comic-Con, toys, so much more. So go check them out, the Collector's Maze Network. I would also like to give a huge shout out to my friend Gil Corzo, who supplied me with the music for my show. Until next time, keep the creativity flowing.